Hello, friends and lovers. Welcome to my Hades 2 aspect tier list. And now's the perfect time for a new one because we just got all 6 of the hidden aspects and I've played them all pretty thoroughly, I hope. We also got a lot of reworks on the other aspects. So this is for patch 10 of the Unseen update, supposedly the last patch before version 1.0. And yes, I will probably have a new aspect tier list when version 1.0 comes. And no, I do not know when that version will come. So we got our traditional tier list and we're going to do one weapon at a time. Why don't we get going? I feel like I got to give you this disclaimer here that this is just my opinion, of course. Tier lists, they are subjective by definition, I think. So this is going to be based on my personal experience with each one of the aspects. And it's going to be geared more towards newer players at the very low fear amounts or possibly zero fear. If I wanted to start discussing 40 or 50 plus fear or speed runs or something like that, that would have to be a separate tier list, I'm afraid. So this is going to be mostly around ease of use and just kind of ease of understanding and just sort of how much fun I've had with each one, I'd say. All right, and with that, let's get started. So we got aspect of Mel for the staffs because we're going to start with the staff here. Gain magic and greater power for your specials. Plus 40 max magic and plus 40 special power. So this is okay. I mean, it's a Mel aspect, so we can't really expect anything too crazy, but I'd actually say this is shockingly strong. I think this is actually my recommended aspect, I think, right now for a beginner, just because that 40 power is really good. So this is going to pair really well with something that gives you a percentage, like from Aphrodite, Apollo, or Hera, for instance, or even Demeter for that matter. Now, if the special is very slow, in other words, if you're just trying to tap the regular special, it's quite slow. So with that extra power, you want one of those percentage-based spoons, and you'll do pretty well, I think. So you could go Aphrodite, you could go for the Poseidon duo after that. That way you don't have to worry about the range. I'd recommend getting into the Omegas because they're generally going to be a little bit better. Maybe Controlled Burn from Hestia so you can really spam those out and do pretty well. It's a nice Mel aspect. I don't really have complaints. It's simple, one-button build-ish, I'd say. And because that Omega special is so fast, yeah, it really enables some of those magic spend builds pretty well. It's also very cheap, only 10 magic per Omega special. Yeah, I think B is fine for it. All right, next up, we got aspect of Circe, and there was a lot to discuss here after the rework. Whenever you use cast, so does your animal familiar, which forms a psychic leash. Psychic leash damage 30 every 0.2 seconds, so it's very rapid. That can get boosted by something like air quality, by the way, and goes up to 50. So you drop the cast, and that's what it looks like, and there's that psychic leash. And that damage stacks up really quickly, I think we can say. However, it's obviously not easy to hit enemies with that psychic leash. It's nice. It's a nice little bonus on top of getting that second cast there. I wouldn't have been shocked if they just gave us 2 casts and called it a day and forgot about the leash. But yeah, now you can drop 2 Omega casts if you want, and they will explode thus forth. This is like the new ultimate cast build, I gotta say. I really love this aspect here. It's very, very fun. I will say that trying to get into Omega casting a lot and making sure the enemies will actually get hit by them, namely the bosses, which aren't susceptible to freeze, not like normal enemies at least. It's actually kind of hard to hit them with that Omega cast. That's why you really need Winter Circle. I think what I find is with the cast builds, they really rely on some very specific boons. Winter Circle from Hermes. You're going to need Geyser Spout from Poseidon. But if you get it going, it's going to feel fantastic. And it does work with a lot of different casts. I think that's one of the reasons why this aspect is so much fun, is because it does enable so many different possible builds with all the different casts that we have out there, because you could just try them all and you're probably going to have a pretty good time with at least most of them, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you want like the best cast, I don't know, probably Zeus's cast with that one. It's just so good. Even if you take Winter Circle, it's just so good. But then you got to get into the Omega cast and you got to get Geyser Spout. I will say, I do kind of think certain cast boons have kind of fallen off as other ones have been lifted, namely Meat Grinder, Prominence Flare. There are a lot of faff, there are a lot of visual clutter as well, and I think they're not as strong as perhaps they had once felt. So I'm not certain I would aim for those, but you can always just, again, go for that nice juicy Geyser Spout and just deal a lot of Omega cast damage with that. And then in between, you can use that attack or Omega attack mostly to fill in the gaps there. And I think you'll have a good time. Yeah, rank 8 sounds really good for Circe for me. All right, next up we got Momus, and this one's a bit tougher for me to rank. I've done only a few runs with it this patch so far. It did get a small nerf. It went from 1.5 seconds to 2 there. Whenever you use your Omega moves, each fires in place up to 3 times until you use it again. Delay between Omega bursts 2 seconds now. I mean, it's still really nice, and it's nice that it pairs with the Knight Arcana card, which gives you crit when you use different Omega moves back to back. Really nice combination there, and you can drop all 3 at once, So it's still a really nice aspect. and I'm having a hard time deciding how it stacks up against the rest, to be honest. I will say, just because some other things have been boosted, it kind of feels like it may have fallen. It's not that the nerf hit it that hard, but it's more so that everything else just feels so much stronger all of a sudden now. Or maybe Momus didn't see any changes, so maybe it's just a little bit more boring. I had a really tough time figuring this one out and where to rank it, but I think for now, Momus is actually going to pop down into C for me. I think so. It's too bad, really. It's still a nice aspect. And again, just because something's at the bottom of the tier doesn't mean it's bad. You can't get a win with it. I don't recommend it for new players. It's not really that. It just might be, you know, there's other easier to use possibilities, I think. But I think for now, I'm going to drop her in C. All right, on to the meat. The hidden aspect. Aspect of Anubis, you have the Ankh Scepter, which raises lone shades whenever you slay foes. Omega move speed and damage plus a 30%. It's interesting because that final line kind of just doesn't matter that much, interestingly. So with Anubis, it's quite an interesting moveset, and I will quickly show you here. So the regular attack drops a circle that stays there until you recast it. Well, actually, it will disappear sooner. Omega attack just adds an extra arc over there, and you can kind of double ding enemies. This is a nice mechanic, and the special will pull enemies in towards that as well. So, like, a good combo here is to put, say, Hera or Hestia on your attack, you know, and then you get Demeter's cast so that they freeze in place, and then you pull them all in with the Omega special. Not so much the regular special, I will say. I don't recommend it as much, but the Omega special, and this is important, hits really, really hard. It's also really fast. It's quite quick, as you can see here. And 165 is a lot of base damage for this. So you can put Aphrodite on the Omega special, or, you know, Hera, Apollo. All those work well. It's a really large AoE, too, already. You can kind of see it ready there. Now, the regular special deals like nothing. It's very low base damage, even lower than the other staff's base damage, so 24. But it is a lot more rapid than the other staff specials there, at least. So you could, in theory, get a lot of special speed and put Poseidon on it. I don't think so. It's just not as good as the Omega Special Spam. Omega Special Spam is the way to go. Try to get some cool hammers like Dual Moonshot, or, I don't know, Shimmering Moonshot, or something like that. A bunch of Moonshots. Not Giga Moonshot, that one sucks. Don't recommend it. But I think, you know, recency bias maybe a little bit, but I absolutely love Anubis. It's fantastic, I think. It's really strong. Probably too strong. I'd be shocked if they leave the Omega Special with the current amount of damage that it has. But for now, I think that bad boy's an S tier. All right, we're moving on to the daggers. We got an aspect of Mel. Your attacks and specials will deal more damage by striking foes from behind. Backstab bonus damage plus 100%. It's good. It's nice. It's fine. It works. I actually at least used to recommend the dagger to new players. You know, it does well with on-hit effects. What are on-hit effects? Things that trigger when you hit an enemy, such as adding Scorch, applying Blitz, splash effects. I think that's pretty much about it. Hef is kind of weird and unique in his own way, so I can't really say Hef. So it works really well when able to Scorch and Splash generally, because then you can just get a lot of those effects onto an enemy very, very quickly. So that's how I would recommend to play that out. The backstab damage does mean that it lends itself a little bit better to the percentages. Well, no, not really, but power will serve you better. If you can gain some attack or special power, it will serve you better because the backstab damage bonus will apply to that power, that extra base damage you can get. But Aspect of Mel, it's fine. It's good. It's, you know, I mean, it's not like B, like Aspect. I don't, where am I getting my words here? I don't think it's up there with Aspect of Mel for the staff quite yet. You know, it's not that crazy to me. It is a more mundane aspect. It's not super exciting or interesting, but I mean, it works still quite well, so I don't think I'm dropping it in D, at least not yet. All right, Aspect of Artemis, and this one might be a little contentious, I can imagine. While you channel your mega attack, you occasionally parry, then riposte right after. That parry has a 15-second cooldown. It also gives you a 60% Omega attack speed channel. So, I recognize this aspect is powerful and can be used quite powerfully. However, it does feel rather narrow, like you have to channel your Omega attack in order to really make use of it. The parry system we got going on here with a super long 15-second cooldown doesn't feel great. After that, you get 50% chance to crit strikes after that with riposte, by the way. It's quite a strange aspect is, I guess, how I would describe it. You know, and I find myself avoiding it oftentimes just because you do one and you kind of like you've done them all, which is too bad, right? You know, I want to have a lot of different builds to play with it, but it's an Omega attack build. Every time you take aspect to Artemis, it feels. You're really locked into that one. At least it feels to me. Maybe I'll find another way to play it. I do recognize it is good, though, at the same time. Is this my first D tier? Oh, boy. That's a tough one. I really don't think it's worthy of D tier, though, for some reason at the same time. I really don't. I don't know if we're going to put a lot of things in D tier at all here, to be honest. Possibly not. I think I'm going to drop it in here because it's a bit clunky. It's a bit clumsy is how I describe it. I think that part of this comes down to the Dagger Omega attack just not always feeling great to have to use often. You know, we'll talk about this when we get to Aspect of Morrigan, but the Dagger Omega attack, it feels clumsy is how I would describe it. Oh, our beloved Pan, how you have fallen. Your special seek foes in the cast and fire more shots if you channel longer. Omega special max shots +5. Now, it doesn't say it anywhere in the description, but this aspect got a small, or actually medium-sized nerf, I'd say. It takes longer to channel your Omega, and there's kind of a delay. The animation is longer. Not just the channeling, but the way Mel kind of finishes throwing the Omega special. It takes a lot longer to get a full charge, all the way up to 30 there. It might look fine, you know what I mean? But it's kind of a big difference. It's not as fluid as an aspect, but at the same time, it was one of the most powerful aspects before. There is something wonky going on here, and I can't tell if it's unintended or not, but if you put Poseidon on your special, which used to feel fantastic, used to be great, it's kind of not good now. I'd recommend not putting Poseidon on the special. Hestia might be queen of the Pan special nowadays, unfortunately, and just stacking up a lot of Scorch and maybe making it explode. Yeah, so there's an internal cooldown on those splashes so that you don't get a splash effect for every single special that you throw out with Pan now for some reason. Not certain why they decided to go that way. I guess they thought it was too strong, or maybe that's unintended. I can't tell. I still think it's good. I still think Pan is good. It's tough. I think I'm going to drop that bad boy in B. I mean, I think I'm going to put it above Melly here, though, at least. It's still quite nice, and there's still some really cool builds with it. I should say, if you get Trick Knives with any of the dagger aspects, you're going to have a super easy run. Trick Knives is just a really strong hammer with it. But I think I'm happy with like a medium B on Pan now. It's also the fact that so many other aspects got buffed that's sort of what's bringing Pan down a little bit, because it also didn't get buffed at the same time. You know, we're going to see that a lot with some of the aspects. And again, maybe recency bias a little bit just because we had our fill with Pan and there's like new things out here for us to play with. But I think that's how I feel about Pan right now. All right, the Morrigan, as they say. Aspect of the Morrigan. You have the Crow Cutters, which can perform the Ritual of the Blood Triad. Blood Triad damage 777. So you have to use one of each move on an enemy. What does one of each move mean exactly? An attack, a special, and Omega. Could be Omega Special, Omega Attack, or Omega Cast. Now, here's what I would recommend to play this aspect if you are trying to. If you do a dash attack and then start charging your Omega attack right after, that's the quickest way to get an Omega out, essentially, with this. Like so, and then you drop a special right after, or some version of that. Either, no matter how you handle it, you kind of want to go from a dash attack into an Omega attack. So you could start with a special or something like that if you want, but I kind of found it easiest to do that. And that's how you can really pump out that triad damage. It's kind of a clunky aspect outside of that, though, I will admit. And again, I kind of already talked about the Omega attack with the dagger just not feeling great, like it locks onto enemies. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You know, if you're not locked onto an enemy, it's not doing anything, which can be quite frustrating, as you can imagine. The special on it, too, is a very, very narrow hitbox, and you might not be hitting enemies as much as you want. Having said that, you can really deliver big bursts of damage quickly. And it's a fun aspect because it makes you kind of use every part of the buffalo or whatever here. I think it's really strong. However, I will say the fun factor is a little bit less for me, but not substantially. I think it still belongs in A just because of how strong it does feel. Just getting that innate damage from it is really good, especially early on in the run when you might not have everything that you're looking for. But yeah, Morrigan is still very good, clearly, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting because there are a few different ways to play it, but I suspect we're going to see some changes a little bit later on, especially around how the special works, I think. All right, we're on to the torches. Man, all of these, the three weapons that we've started with here, I feel like are all in a very good place overall. I really do think so. I think all three of these weapons in total have really strong and differentiated aspects. But anyway, let's talk about aspect of Mel for the torches. Your attacks and specials may deal critical damage 5%. Boring, right? Pretty simple and straightforward. And the special on the torches especially got changed a lot, so that the balls are much smaller, they're further away, and a little bit harder to use. you would really only want to hold down the attack button with Aspect of Mel here. Now, you don't continuously channel the Omega attack like you used to. You kind of separate it and you do some regular attacks in between. However, you can still use it the same way that you used to. If you get attack speed or attack channel speed and you can bump that up, you'll be channeling it much faster, and then you go into those magic spend boons. I'm talking about Fine Line, I'm talking about Weed Killer, I'm talking about Ocean Swell from Poseidon. Those will make you have a very strong, very nice build. You're going to need some magic regen for that too, though, of course. But if you do that, you're going to have a very, very good time with this aspect, I think. It's super simple, it's super easy, but I feel like it's weirdly too strong. I think it's more so that it's not the aspect is strong, but it's more so those magic spend boons I just mentioned, Fine Line, Ocean Swell, etc., are just in such a strong place now. I weirdly think this needs to go above some of these others here. You know, B maybe, you know, maybe it's only B just because it's a little boring, but I think it's really good here. But I mean, we're going to talk about Moros in a second, which is obviously going to be very, very different, or rather going to show what it can really be like here. So with Aspect of Moros, your attacks linger for 2 seconds to explode, and a blast is struck by your specials. I see a lot of people get hung up on the whole, like, your attacks linger thing, and they're, like, kind of questioning what's going on here. The point is, if your attacks hit your special, they explode and they deal bongo damage, basically. That's how I'm going to describe it. Here, so you enter a chamber with Aspect of Mars, right? You charge an Omega Special, and you hold down the attack button, and you get at that just the right distance, and boom. You can see the damage on Skelly really popping. It's super easy. It's super strong right away. You almost don't need boons for this aspect for some reason, you know? It did kind of get affected by that torch rework a little bit, but it is just crazy strong still. It's again, quite easy to use, I think, here. It is very good, very easy. Is it S tier? Oh boy. Is it S tier, I wonder? I might have to shift some of these around at some point. I think I'm popping her in S. I'm thinking I'm popping Moros in S here still. It's a tough choice, but I think Moros does belong there because of the ease of use and the strength all at the same time. I find it fun too. I don't know, I find it to be a fun aspect. Alright, Aspect of Eos. Your Omega attack fires a Daybreaker that deals damage in an area around it every 2 seconds. Daybreaker blast damage 150. It's a wonky aspect. It's a little bugged with Apollo's Legendary, by the way, but you can see it using the Omega attack, or is that the regular attack? I already forget now. Whatever it considers itself. It will copy your specials too, as can be seen here. I think it got kind of indirectly hit via the torch rework, supposedly, as they called it, a little bit, just because the specials on the torches overall got quite a bit worse, it feels, you know? I think Eos is fine, you know? It's good. It's one of those things, like, it would probably be a lot better if the other aspects were a lot worse. Well, I mean, I guess that's obvious, right? It would get a lot more attention if the other aspects were worse. I think Eos's only problem is that the other torch aspects are just so much fun. So I do think it's good. I'm gonna say it's definitely not D. I'm gonna say it's probably not C, even here. I think I'm gonna drop her in a low B for now, and that's probably how this is gonna be weighted. You might say, where the hell are all the Ds? But again, I don't think a lot is gonna belong there. All right, Aspect of Supay. You have the Devil Sparks, which also enhance your rush boon damage plus 50%. So this is kind of the weird vampire survivor run. So you can technically just run around an enemy with a rush boon like this. This is an aspect that is extremely unique, and I love it for that. It did get a nerf after the Unseen patch came out, or sorry, Unseen update came out, and then patch 10 came. You went from two special balls to one special ball. You also got less out of the attack here too, unfortunately. Like, it fires one less projectile, I think. So this was like the on-hit king, and now it's kind of not so much, but it's still just as strong. I think people just miss what it once was, which was completely overtuned, if I may say so. And I do too. I miss it too. I can't lie. I will say it's kind of a little unsatisfying to use sometimes. Like, it's almost just visually boring compared to some other aspects. Or maybe it's just boring to use because you're not, you know, using your attack and special as much, you know, and you just channel your Omega attack or Omega special sometimes, and that's it. I'm not certain, to be totally honest, where my thoughts are for that, the fun factor of it. But I still think it's very strong. I still think it's very good, you know, and it enables a lot of really cool runs. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Because you can kind of try a different run with every single one of the rushes. Well, except maybe like Apollo's or something. But so many work there. You know, Hestia's works, Poseidon's works, etc. You know, I think it's really interesting for that. So I think it belongs in A for me. I think I put it above Morrigan, but not quite above Circe in its current form there. But yeah, I think I'm happy with that with Supay. Okay, we're moving on to the axe. And yes, I am going to be finally putting some in that bottom tier. I promise you. We're going to start with the aspect to Mel. Gain bonus attack power and health attack power and life plus 35. I mean, it's what you expect, I guess, for a Mel aspect. I will say, this is probably the aspect that feels like it's been left behind the most. It's not just boring, but it feels very narrow in terms of its uses. You know, you can only tap the regular attack. It doesn't get any bonuses from the whirlwind. You still want to be whirlwinding if you use this aspect, I should say, but without getting any benefit to it, it just kind of feels bad, I think, there. Dashing Heave is a great hammer for this, and then you just dash tech everywhere, but even if you get that, which is possibly the best hammer for it, it's kind of just a boring run, I think, you know what I mean? And the special is totally unusable, the regular special. Omega special is technically usable. So I think it's not that you're going to have like the worst time with it, but it's also, I see it as an aspect, there's the least reason to use it, if that makes sense, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so what's a good use case for an aspect of Mel for the axe? Well, not a whole lot, I'm afraid. Especially now that we have aspect of Supay, which serves for a rush boon build. You used to have to use Mel Axe because it at least gave you some health or something like that, right? Well, that's gone, I'm afraid. And I'm afraid it's just a very boring aspect otherwise. All right, aspect of Charon. I love this aspect. Your cast erupts like a stronger Omega cast if struck by your Omega special. Cleave cast size and damage plus 30%. You drop your cast, you charge your Omega special, it explodes like an Omega cast, just like so. Very strong aspect. You can dole out a lot of damage quickly there. I think it's actually quite usable, even for some more challenging runs there, too. And you can try all the different casts, and there's a lot of tier 2 cast boons to it. I mean, you kind of still always want Geyser Spout and everything. We can try out different Omega specials. Certain hammers just make this really crazy, too. It's a really strong aspect. It's a really strong aspect that I'm having a hard time deciding where to put it, to be honest. I think it's top of the A's for me. I think it's going to be top of the A's for Daddy-O here. Methinks. I think so. Yeah. That sounds pretty good to me. All right, aspect of Thanatos. Your attack is faster, and each strike grants mortality until you take damage. Attack speed plus 30%. Mortality is crit chance, basically. So you charge that up using your regular attack, and then you could use, like, your whirlwind, for instance, after that point, and you get some crit on it. I was actually defending this aspect recently, but then I did some runs with it. And I realized it's kind of in a tough place now. Again, we kind of have mentioned this, but so many other things got buffed or reworked or just boosted overall in several different ways. Aspect of Than did not get touched. So it feels a little left behind. It's also something that really locks you into melee more than almost any other aspect for that matter, you know? I think it's actually in a tough place. I mean, it's obviously not worse than aspect of Mel for the axe in my eyes, just because it has a bit more flexibility, you know? And plus it could give you that crit, but you need to not get hit. If you try a run with double 40% frenzy on and rivals 4, you're in for a bad time. I'm gonna be totally honest. So weirdly, I think Than Axe belongs down here. Am I crazy for that? Because this is probably the aspect I was shocked. Like, I was trying to do my usual challenge, which is double frenzy, rivals 4, and it's just like, wow, I am struggling multiple times too. And I know I shouldn't factor in like a 26 plus sphere run for this tier list for new players, because without rivals on, I think you'll be fine. You'll have a good time with it, you know, but I can't help but think like these other aspects are probably going to serve you better. So I'm afraid I think that's where I'm going to have to put Than for now. All right, here we go. Nergal. Yes. You have the Rock Lion Mace. You become Berserk after you strike enough foes. Berserk after 9 strikes. While you're Berserk, you attack faster and you recover health with each strike. Super cool aspect. I was kind of worried that this aspect was going to get boring. Baby, it does not get boring, let me tell you. And it's usable via the Omega Special or the Omega Attack, which is really nice. Like, you can have a good run with either, focusing on either one of those, you know? I've had several good runs with either one. Especially the Omega Special, because you can kind of do a dash while charging your special, just like with any of the other aspects, I should say, either. But, God, the Berserk is so strong, it lets you face tank a lot and get a lot of health back. There's some cool hammers that gets you even more health back with each strike. I think it's really good. I think that baby belongs in S. Do I think it belongs in? I think it belongs in S. I think it do. It is actually making a big splash in leaderboards and high tier categories as well. Again, I don't want to quote those things, but it seems like a lot of different challenge runners are really enjoying the aspect as well. Am I putting her above Moros? I like Anubis, personally, you know, a lot. I think I would put it above Moros just because I played a lot of Moros lately, you know what I mean? I did play a lot of Moros in previous patches, so it's time for something else to take up my time. All right, aspect of Mel for Raval. Your attacks have more power for each shell fired and not yet retrieved, plus 12. So, pretty much what you'd expect here. You know, it's simple, it's easy, you know what I mean? I guess. It's okay. I think its issue is kind of like Mel Axe, that it doesn't have a solid place for itself, you know? When is a good time to use Aspect of Mel? You know, you're not going to find many. If you want to get into an Omega attack build, yeah, you should be using Aspect of Mel probably, if anything. You know, you could do Aspect of Persephone, though, still, too. So I think Aspect of Mel kind of lacks an identity. It doesn't feel special. I mean, maybe if it's a Mel aspect, it kind of shouldn't. I think you'll have an easy run with Aspect of Mel half the time. I mean, it's always going to be a little hammer dependent, but that extra power can be quite nice, I will say. I don't really think it belongs in D. I don't. I'm sorry. I think it probably belongs in C, though, I will say. Just because it's not the most exciting thing, and there are definitely easier aspects at the end of the day, I think, here. Am I going to move it up here? Just because Artemis pisses me off, basically. Yeah, I think so. Alright, aspect of Medea. Your attack stays within reach and explodes after landing your specials or after 3 seconds. Your attack and specials get a 90% additional damage. Actually, it's not specials. That's actually a typo, we think. Attack and special damage plus 90%. So you basically start with a 90% attack and special boon with this aspect, and then you can get another one, of course, too. It's insane that they've left this the way it is. So how do you play this aspect, in case you don't know already? You load the attack into yourself by hitting the attack button, and you use a special through an enemy to make it explode sooner. So I'd recommend playing it this way if you have a controller. I just slide my thumb across the attack into the special button like so. Just like that, and you're going to deal crazy amounts of damage. Just go back and forth between the enemies, basically like this. You can go really fast, especially if the enemy's up against the wall. You can actually go insanely quickly, too. Look at that. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. You can pile on damage with this bad boy so easily. Blitz on the special, you know, Aphrodite or Apollo or Hera's attack is probably best. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Blitz is really strong on it. It's obviously very good. I mean, I think most people could agree it might be one of the stronger aspects. However, I will say it's not a safe aspect because you're literally ramming your body into enemies. You're not really invulnerable for any of that time with the special, or at least it's a microsecond if you are. So it's definitely not a safe aspect, but the power you can deliver from this thing, it's kind of hard to say, you know what I mean? It does take a little bit of getting used to. So I will say it's not the safest aspect, but it's probably going to be some of the most damage you've ever handed out if you actually give it a shot. All right, aspect of Persephone. Your Omega special is sprouted unless you change direction. Boons start with the bonus levels up to +6. I thought this aspect was crazy at first, but it turns out it was just unintentionally bugged and we were getting way more levels than we were supposed to. So now it's a bit more even. It's a bit more timid, I guess. Really fun aspect to start with, like Hef's keepsake, and see if you can get a really strong attack or special early on in the run and just boost that up. One of the few ways you can really get Hef popping off, at least early on in a run. The whole Omega special sprouted thing, I don't know if I find it exceptionally useful. You are invulnerable while using your Omega special, so you make that last longer. You're invulnerable for longer. It does work. It is good. It is strong, and that sprouted builds up based on Olympian damage now, not just cast damage. So cast damage could affect it, for instance, or maybe like Splash or Blitz. Maybe Scorch. Scorch should do it. You can never totally tell with this game here. So Persephone. I like the aspect. It's really fun. I like the rework a lot here. Do I think it's that strong, though? I might not think it's that strong, but I think it's a lot of fun, so that's where it's kind of tough. So I'm thinking a high B, personally. If they kept the levels where they were, where you got like +6 half the time, like 50% of the time, I would definitely drop it in an A. But I think for now, I think B sounds about right. All right, aspect of Hel, you have Frostmane, which grants the way of the Valkyrie after your Omega special. Valkyrie attack speed +25%. So while you have Valkyrie on, per se. So you use your Omega Special, preferably at the start of the rune, and then you can just rapid fire the attack. There's like no cap on the attack speed here, so it goes like super crazy. I'm not gonna say no cap, but it goes really, really high. Some of the hammers can really boost that a lot too there. But you can't Omega Special often. You can only do it when you're actually out of the Valkyrie. You have to wait for that to cool down in the bottom left by your magic bar to turn off to actually do it again. But this pairs really, really well with Poseidon's attack. Almost too well, unfortunately, because everything else gets supremely overshadowed by it, I'm afraid, because you get a splash for every single one of those bullets, and it's just really strong with that rapid fire attack. So very strong, but the builds feel a little narrow, I think, with it. That's my only issue there, is that I can't really do a special or Omega Special oriented build. You can't do an Omega attack build because it's just crazy slow, basically. You just hold down the attack button without Valkyrie on in particular, and you wait for it to come out. So it's an extremely narrow aspect because of that. I mean, if you put Poseidon on, I think you're going to have a pretty easy run. So this is a tough one, because in terms of fun, it's maybe not fun, but diversity more so. It's like a D. Fun, it's like a B, but power, it's like an A. So where does this bad boy wind up for me, we think? Ooh, you know what I mean? Oh, you know, that's where it's kind of challenging, I think. I think for me, I'm thinking about it, and oh, no way I would do that. No way I would do that. Nah. Okay. Yeah, I think it belongs right about there. Maybe there's some more testing that needs to be done there, but it's also like Medea is just so strong with this aspect too, and I think Persephone is actually pretty good here as well. But yeah, I think that's a good placement for Hel at the end of the day. All right, the final weapon, Godsent or whatever. I'm going to call it the Black Coat. Aspect of Mel, your attacks, sprint, and move speed are 20% faster. Oh boy, so we gotta talk about the coat, you know what I mean? I've been someone that's kind of been down about the coat ever since its introduction, and it's seen buff after buff after buff after buff, but they've really stuck to their guns on the mechanics of it overall. I still think it kind of generally has a small problem here, namely around the Omega attack, which I don't really love. I don't love trying to use it. I don't love trying to make it really shine in a run, or rather I haven't really been able to have a lot of fun with the Omega attack. That's my biggest issue with it. The attack, the special, and the Omega special, I think they're actually all in a pretty good place. If you use the Omega attack a lot and you get dashing... No, sorry, Exhaust Riser, that's a really strong hammer that you can have with this aspect here. So I definitely recommend it. Aspect of Mel is obviously quite boring, but weirdly it feels better than half of the other aspects here, I'm gonna say. So I'm not sure, really, here. I guess I'm just not really positive on where to put it. If that 20% speed shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it kind of feels like a big deal, you know what I mean? It kind of feels like a big deal, but I don't know, I'm probably overselling it. Anyway, where are we ranking this bad boy? That's a tough one. That is a very, very tough one. I think that, I mean, it's a Mel aspect, so we shouldn't be upset about it winding up in, say, rank C, and I think that's kind of fair for it. You usually want to start a run with like Poseidon's attack or something here, for the most part. I do think that you can make good use of the special. You can kind of use the special and the attack at the same time, kind of. I can't tell if that's actually intended or not, but yeah, I think this seems about right to me. I consider that better than aspect of Artemis. Maybe not so much anymore. I'm quite bitter about Thanatos still, as you can see. Next up, aspect of Selene. This is a fun aspect, I will say. It's very interesting. However, quite narrow. You start with Skyfall, a hidden hex that strikes multiple foes and applies Shine. The hex is ready after you spend 60 magic. You can actually get the Godsent Hex with this if you start with Ares' Keepsake too, but that's the only way to get it, which feels a little weird how that's how they line it up. But it's actually a really neat idea. I will say that it's not that I have a problem with the hex, but the way that you need to spend magic in order to use the hex feels rough. Because again, the Omega attack with this thing, I don't think it's good. It's not fun. It's frustrating. The block doesn't really do as much as you hope. It knocks you back. It takes forever to charge. It's kind of it's a window of time that doesn't really work out well for a fast-paced roguelike, I think. I know, I got a lot of issues. So it feels like I'm stuck doing an Omega special run whenever you do it, whenever I use this aspect, and that's the only way I can do it. And the Omega special comes with its own set of problems, I think, here. So it's tough. It's too bad, really. And then the hex is always the hex, you know what I mean? So you'll kind of always know what you're going to get. I mean, the Path of Stars is always going to be a little bit different, but there's not a gazillion options there at the same time, I'm afraid. And now it feels like with the Godsent version of this, it feels like every Selene run has to start with Ares' keepsake in order to get the Godsent, and then you're always going to do an Omega Special run. That's just too narrow. That's just too narrow. You can have a good run with it, but I think it's just too narrow. So I think in terms of power, it's fine. It's like a B. You know what I mean? But in terms of build diversity, I think it's dead last, sadly. You know what I'm saying? It might even be an A in terms of power. So it's almost like I'm making a protest against Supergiant here, that I think they need to figure something out here. I think this aspect should actually get like a Godsent from each one of the gods or something like that. I know that's a lot of work. I know. But it feels kind of unfair. Or at least to make it so we don't have to start with Ares' keepsake to get it or something like that. You know what I mean? Because every run's going to start exactly the same, and I feel like it's going to kind of end in almost all the same places too. Again, don't worry. I'm still going to use it. I'm going to still try to find cool ways to play with it and highlight it, but I think that's where it goes. Aspect of Nyx, you have Omega Boost, which lets you produce Night Spawn after you activate it. Night Spawn damage 75%. This one got buffed in a few different areas, namely that on-hit effects like Splash will carry over onto your little night spawns, basically. It's a cool aspect. It's really neat. I'm having a hard time knowing how to rank this one. I have used it a couple times this patch at a bare minimum. You know, I was always kind of okay with it. This was probably the aspect I would use the most out of the coat before this patch at the least. So I'm not like disappointed with it at all. So I guess I'll show you what it does, just so I can gather my thoughts here. And then you get extra attacks and or specials that kind of spawn away. It works really well with on-hit effects, I think. You know, and therefore there's a few different ways that you can use it at a minimum. I will say the whole Omega boost from the sprint thing can kind of feel a bit onky at times, but yeah, I think I like it. It's got to be my favorite coat. Yeah, it's got to be my favorite coat. Do I feel like it warrants A? Do I feel like any of the coat aspects warrant A? Oh no. Am I going to upset people if none of them belong in A? I know this is going to be a really lopsided tier list, but just my instinct out here, you know what I mean? Just my instinct, I think. I think I'm going to drop it in B still, I'm afraid. I think I'm going to drop it in B. No, I've changed my mind, because at least you can have like a regular attack run that does pretty well, and it actually benefits your regular attack to some degree, and there's like good reasons to use it and everything. Yeah, I'm going to drop it as a low A, I think. I think I'm happy with that. All right, this one is probably not going to be divisive, but yeah, we can talk about its shortcomings, I think. Aspect of Shiva. You have Purifying Grace, which absorbs Omega Special Blast to grow Destructive. Max Destructive ranks 6. This feels like a really bad aspect to rank up for step 1. So what do? You use your Omega Special, you stand in the lob, and you get 1 stack of Destructive. You then use your Omega Attack you spend your Destructive stacks to deal bonus damage. Exactly that rhythm. So you can actually have quite a strong run by kind of going back and forth between Omega Attack, Omega Special. You turn on the night and everything. So I guess you'd want to get into this rhythm or something like that and just kind of keep going back and forth. The thing is, though, I feel like it doesn't work. We kind of come back to the whole Omega Attack thing, and the whole aspect that really wants you to use the Omega Attack of this weapon, just it's going to inevitably feel quite bad, I think. You know, I don't think this is a fun aspect. I have found fun ways to play this aspect, namely around just spamming the Omega Special. It costs a ton of magic, which can be kind of a good thing if you're using, say, the Incandescent Aura Duo Boon or Righteous Pike from Athena, which benefits you from spending a lot of magic. And you just need a strong magic regen, and yeah, then you get like Controlled Burn from Hestia, and you're just spamming out Omega Specials like that, spending tons of magic. But then you're ignoring half the aspect, right? So is that really good? Is that fun? Is that interesting? I'm not so sure, I'm afraid. They did rework this aspect away from what it was before. I don't think it got better, personally. I appreciate that they're trying to get us to use part of this weapon that we aren't, but I don't think they've found it yet. I'm sorry. Shiva, I just don't have fun with you. I'm sorry, Shiva. All right, there's my Hades 2 aspect tier list. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree in some places? Feel free to let me know where you would have ranked some of these aspects, where I did you dirty and things like that. I'm sorry if you wanted something super objective, but here's what I would recommend. Join some of the Hades community, namely on Discord, or you can go to speedrun.com if you're looking for just what weapons are the fastest, for instance. We can also find out what weapons have cleared the highest amount of fear, or, you know, which ones are popular right now for those high fear runners. Join the communities, discuss it, you know, tell me where I'm wrong. I'm willing to hear it. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out lots of guides coming for version 1.0 of the game. I hope to see you there. Like, comment, subscribe, you know what's going on, and I shall see you in another video.